Well, welcome back. As you can tell, I'm at the shed in the woods today, and it's a lovely day. Coffee. Came to camp today for two main reasons, to be honest. Just to get out, the weather was nice, and also to do a few little jobs on the rifle range. Start to get things ready for the family meet in August. Yeah, best timestamp this. It's May 2022. It's a Saturday. I think it's the 14th. I could be wrong. No, I think it's the 14th. Yeah, we've got the family meet coming up in July, and I like to do something with the kids on the rifle range with the air pistols and air rifles. So I've set up some reactive targets, basically just metal plates that clang when they get hit. I'll put some pictures up or a bit of video up of them. Yeah, just use some bits of tree, some logs that were left over from the trees that got brought down in the storm. So I used some of them to attach the plates to at a reasonable distance away from the shooting line for the kids. Give them some chance of hitting them and getting some reaction. There's nothing more soul destroying when you're young is to shoot at things and miss everything. So I've put a red dot sight on my break barrel rifle, my little BSA Lightning, and that's more than accurate enough to hit these plates every time. But with having the red dot on, the kids don't have to be able to shut an eye. They can keep both eyes open, look down the rifle, see the red dot, put it on the target, and stand a good chance of hitting. So that's what I've been doing today, and now it's time for a coffee and a chill. I've had a play with my pistol in the range as well, just for something to do. But I'm enjoying I was going to say quiet, but it's not quiet today, because the farmer's harvesting the grass that he cut the other day from the field behind me, and then they're going to move on to the field the other side of the wood later on, I think. So there's three or four tractors constantly going around that, clearing that. Well, make hay while sun shines, as they say. Gav's here with Sarah. They're clearing Sparrow's old shelter, and after the meet they're going to put a shelter up in the same location, but they're clearing the site at the moment. Gaz is up as well. He's up with his daughter. He's plodding on with his cabin and basically just relaxing. And there was somebody else up earlier. Yeah, still here because I can see one of the dogs. I think he's a friend of Gaz. But he's been before, I've seen him a few times. But it's just nice to get away. So, what's going on in the world at the moment? Oh, what isn't going on? Well, future people, what's going on is there's a war in the Ukraine. It's all over the news. Russia decided that the Ukraine doesn't have a right to exist. It should really just be part of Russia, especially as it won't do as it's told. Not that they're trying to tell it to do what it's told, but it's not doing as it's told, therefore it shouldn't exist anymore. About 8 years ago they occupied part of the Ukraine, the Crimea, and the Donbass area, through the use of Russian-speaking separatists. In other words, they stoked up a load of trouble and started arming people. There's an excuse to go and do what they want. Anyhow, apparently, according to the Russians, they're freeing the Ukrainians from the yoke of Nazism. Unfortunately for them, the Ukrainians don't want to free from the yoke of Nazism. This is what the Russians called Nazism. The rest of the world called freedom and democracy. But there you go. Karen was going on about why can't the Russian people see what's going on, and I trying to tell her that the story that we believe, the truth, the version of the truth that we believe, we've got from the media, from people telling us what's going on. Well, the Russian people are having people on their side telling them what's going on, but they're not telling them the same thing that we're getting told. And as the Russian state is controlling all the media and shut down all the independent media, they're only getting told things by the state-controlled media, which is never a good thing. In the West, we've had a problem with woke media, cancelling people, cancel culture. People that don't agree with the liberal views of the woke brigade, and because the liberal woke media control the media, they control the narrative to a large extent, which is scary. But old Elon Musk there, he's gone and bought Twitter, or he's in the process of buying Twitter, so that people can speak their minds. Dangerous thing that people speak in their minds. Well, it is dangerous if you're trying to control what people think, and in doing so control the way they behave. So anyway, getting back to the Ukraine, the Russians, they're using a variation of the German blitzkrieg. However, they're not blitzing anywhere. All they're really doing is using artillery. It's more like First World War, using artillery to just trash areas. Unfortunately, the areas they're trashing are the cities. I haven't seen war like this since the Second World War. You wouldn't think you would again on mainland Europe. Well, there you go. The Russians have proven to be not very good at mobile warfare. The thing we always worried about them. Huge mobile armies steaming across Europe. Turns out they can't steam anywhere once they get slightly away from their lines of supply. Looks like the world's been worrying about fuck all for years. Yeah, tank columns, armoured columns running out of diesel. Can you believe it? Modern army running out of diesel. I mean, the last big famous thing about a modern armoured army running out of diesel was the Battle of the Bulge, Second World War. You know, the German panzers ran out of fuel. No, they ran out of fuel because they were gambling on capturing Allied fuel dumps, and they didn't. But I don't think the Russians were banking on everyone running away. Unfortunately for them, unfortunate for the rest of the world, the Ukrainian people decided to stand and fight. Now, can you imagine what would have happened in Afghanistan if the Afghans had decided to stand and fight rather than just put the weapons down and run away? Hand over all that military equipment to the Taliban. Now they're screaming, oh, Afghan refugees, should let them in. Why? 20 years we spent training and arming the Afghans to defend themselves, and when they get the chance to defend themselves, they all fuck off and hide and run away. Well, not all, but enough of them that the Taliban just walked straight in and took everything. No. I've said before, freedom, there's a price to pay for freedom, and that price has to be paid for in blood, and the hats off to them, the Ukrainians are paying that price with interest in blood. Total respect for the Ukrainian people. No respect for the Russian soldiers. They're acting like just a bunch of fucking bandits, robbing and murdering and raping their way across the Ukraine. Cunts. Got no sympathy for them. Was that video of the Polish security guard getting shot in the back by the Russian soldiers, and then them looting the place he was working at? They're fucking cunts. They could have robbed him anyhow. They could have just gone in there and robbed him. They didn't need to kill that man, or two men. They shot them both in the back. No need for that. There's no need for the war in Ukraine, to be perfectly honest. But I think all those countries that border Russia need to be offered the chance to join NATO. The Ukrainians have earned their place in NATO. Fucking earned it. Paid for it in blood, death and suffering. And if Putin's aims to push NATO back from his borders, all he's done is he brought NATO forward. If the Finns join NATO and Sweden join NATO, two neutral countries joining NATO because of Russian aggression. I suppose it's more complicated than I'm making out. It always is. And I only know what I've seen on the news and the media. And how much of that is true, you don't know. They say one of the first casualties of war is truth. Yeah, generally is. This has turned into a waffle in the woods, this, hasn't it? But sometimes you need to do a waffle. Put your own thoughts in order. No one needs to watch it. But this is here for my kids and grandkids and going forward. That's what it's all about. So sometimes you have to talk about what's going on in the world. And the big thing at the moment is the war in the Ukraine. Yes, I know there's other things happening in the moment. There was a reporter killed in Israel or the West Bank or somewhere, I forget the details. But then again, you know, in the Middle East there's people getting killed all the time. That's the thing with religious wars. And really that's all it is, it's just religion and the difference of religion killing each other in the Middle East. Organised religion is a dangerous thing. Don't have a problem with people's own spiritual beliefs. They can believe in whatever deity they like, so long as they're not harming anybody else. But when they get together into big organisations, then they start telling people that they have to believe in their God or else. And the worst one for that at the moment, I mean, it used to be the Catholic Empire, Holy Roman Empire, or the Catholic Empire. The Catholic Church used to butcher people for not believing. The Protestant Church butchered people for not believing the right way. Most churches, most religions butcher people for not believing or not believing in the right way. But at the moment, at this time in the world, the religion that's butchering people for not believing and not believing in the right ways is Islam. Dangerous religion is Islam. It's more, in my view, because it's all wrapped up with state control and controlling how people live their lives. To me, it's what's the phrase I'm looking for? Not so much a religion. More a political point of view, I suppose. No. I know what I'm thinking of, but I can't think of it. It'll come to me when I'm not thinking about it. Brain's going. But, yeah. I don't understand much about Islam, to be perfectly honest. There's a prophet, Muhammad, had a number of wives. What gets me is, I was talking to my neighbour who is a Muslim, and he was saying that the Quran is the word of Muhammad that was never been changed as he said it. And I thought, oh, that's handy if you know that to be a fact, and if it was written at the time and no one's ever amended it and changed it, that's fair go, that. But then I was watching this documentary about the Quran and Islam, and it turns out, and it's well documented, that the Quran, the Arabic Quran that we have today, wasn't the first written Quran, because apparently the first Qurans were written in either Greek or Aramaic. The majority of Muslims don't know that, apparently. Yeah. It turns out that up to a certain point, and I don't know the historical dates, there was only a verbal account of what Muhammad had said. There was a whole raft of men that were tasked with remembering it, verbatim, word for word. Anyhow, most of them got themselves killed at a battle somewhere or other. So there was a bit of a panic. So it was decided to get all the guys together that could remember what was said and write his teachings down on papyruses and scrolls and this, that and the other, which they did. Move on a period of time, I don't know how long it was, when, was it the Second Caliphate? I don't know what the Second Caliphate is, but I believe that's what it was. Whoever was in charge of the area at the time decided that they would write it all down so that it didn't get misinterpreted like the Bible for the Christians or the Jews. People were arguing about the wording. So they wanted to write it all down, get it nailed down. So they collected in as many scrolls and papyruses and verbal accounts and wrote it down again. Brilliant, you would think. And then everyone's papyruses and scrolls and whatnot were handed back. Move on another period of time, the Third Caliphate, they decided to write it down in Arabic. So they want everyone's papyruses and scrolls back again. But there must have been something going on, because not everyone handed them over. And it was a good job, really, because apparently after they'd rewritten the Quran into Arabic and into their version of the Quran, they started destroying all the original scrolls and papyruses. That says there's a political interference to me. So I immediately would start to question the validity of the Quran as being a verbatim account of what Muhammad said, because it's been transcribed a number of times by politicians. That's the thing, you see, by politicians. And they'll know there were learned scholars who actually were running the place, so therefore the politicians. Yeah, it's akin to Ian Paisley, as was, rewriting the Bible to suit himself and destroying all other copies of the Bible. Yeah, that type of thing. Or the King James Bible, that's different to the Bibles that went before. Yeah, suffer not the witch to live. Or is it suffer not the doers of evil magic to live? You could say it's the same thing, but is it? all in the wording, I suppose. But I digress again. I suppose it's all down to political control. Control of your populace. What was it Marx said about religion? The opiate of the masses. Just another form of state control. Yeah. It's alright to put up with a shit life now while you're living, because if you're good and follow the rules and don't argue with your place in life, you'll go to a much better place when you're dead. Yeah, right. What was it Ricky Gervais said about not believing in gods? He doesn't believe in gods, any gods. Not a one god. And he was having a conversation with somebody who was a devout Christian. And essentially he said there's about 3,000 gods, or thereabouts, known gods at the moment. And so Ricky Gervais just does not believe in one more god than the Christian, because the Christian believes in one god and doesn't believe in the other 2,999 gods. So Ricky Gervais just disbelieves in one more god than the other guy. So there. I had my own personal little epiphany about religion and church a few years back. I was watching something on the news, and it's a bit like what's going on now. There was a load of crap and people being killed, and more bad news. And it's a bit like what's happening in the Ukraine now. There's loads of killing and murdering and butchering. And if there is a God, why does he tolerate that shit? Yeah? Oh, free will. Fuck that. If there's a God, snap your fingers or whatever it is you've got and stop it. You could stop it. You could just bloody appear and say, stop that now, or else. And all those that don't stop it, click your fingers and get rid of them. Yeah. Or, reissue your 10 Commandments or whatever it is, and then just when people break them, just fucking make sure they die on the spot. No, you broke you broke one of the commandments, fuck off, down to hell, there you go. Then people would live a nice life then. And they wouldn't have to go around killing each other. You would sort it all out. God, that is. But God doesn't. Yeah. So, what sort of God would leave all this evil in the world? And not do something about it. And by that I don't mean another prophet, another lunatic with a sword that wants to go around and kill everyone that's not believing the right way. Come on, God, get your own hands fucking bloody and sort it out yourself. But I don't see a speedy ending to this war in the Ukraine. Not while Putin's living anyway. Because, well, he's a tyrant and a despot and a murderer and a criminal. All these given. But until his own people get fed up and remove him, nothing's going to change. So here I am, sat in a wood, enjoying a cigar and a coffee. Yet in the Ukraine there's people sat in a wood, dying in woods. Huddled up, terrified in woods, praying to God that they won't die today. Thanks to the Russians. And then there's the last defenders of Mariupol. They know they can't surrender to the Russians because they'll just end up getting fucking put to death somehow, and it won't be quick, no doubt. I suppose all they can hope for is a quick, clean death fighting. I suppose Mariupol is the equivalent of the Americans' Alamo. They're holding the line, they're holding that, they're tying up troops, giving the rest of the Ukrainian forces time to get their shit together and defend. And in doing so, they're killing themselves, sacrificing themselves rather. So, much respect to those guys. I suppose every nation at some point needs their Alamo moment. This is the Ukrainians. Remember the Alamo? Yeah, well now you're going to have to remember Mariupol. It's like the Siege of Khartoum or Rorke's Drift, isn't it? I suppose the guys there know there's not much hope of getting the Ukrainian army fighting its way through. You know, you wish your government could do more to help. But I suppose all we can do is keep sending supplies, weapons, ammunition, medical aid, food, whatever they need. So, there's Zelensky making here's a little Churchill moment when he told the Americans he didn't need a ride, he needed weapons. Yeah. I think he's surprised the political elites across the world, hasn't he? It's all about the right man for the moment. What is it they say? Cometh the hour, cometh the man. Certainly did there. I was watching the news and there was some young Ukrainians, obviously volunteers, there were civilians a few weeks or months ago, and now they're on the front lines fighting. And there was a young lass, she must only be in her 20s, early 20s, must have been only in her early 20s, part of the unit fighting. I thought, bloody hell. Yet the Walk Brigade in this country in America were complaining because some bloke in a frock who said he was a woman got turned back at the border because they weren't letting men out into Poland as refugees. Young men had to turn round and go back because the Ukrainian government had said, no, if you're a man of fighting age, you stay put. Anyhow, this trans woman turned up at the border. Her passport says he's male, she's male, whatever. Oh, fuck it, I'm not going to be politically correct. There's a bloke in a fucking dress pretending to be a woman, trying to run away. Cunt. I'm a lady, don't you know? I've got to go with the women and children. Fuck off. Take the dress off, put some trousers on and go back. And then there's those young girls, you know, this young woman at the front line fighting, not trying to leave. There's lots of women not trying to leave, they're staying put, doing what they can. Yeah. And there's people banging on about how the Ukrainians are being transphobic, not letting these trans women out and saying they have to go back to fight when they're letting women out. letting women and children out, women with children, older women, older men. You know, those that are too old to fight or too infirm to fight. Personally, I was appalled that somebody of fighting age would try and hide with the women and children. Let's face it, this trans woman didn't have any kids, so why was she trying to leave? Then getting upset because they wouldn't let her out. Or him. I'm old. No, I'm not transphobe. If somebody wants to live their life as a sex they weren't born into, they can. I don't really care one way or the other. But I won't be told I have to believe that they are a gender they're not. You're not a woman, you're a man in a frock. That's living as a woman, and good luck to you. That, you know, that's you're happy, you go ahead. But I won't believe you're a woman. It's like all these athletes, male athletes that suddenly take a year off, take some testosterone suppressing drugs for a year, and then start competing as a woman, and then they're smashing all the women's titles and what have you. Well, not fucking surprised there, are we? Funny how you don't get it the other way. You don't get women taking a few testosterone tablets and then competing with the men. There's only one way around this, in my view, with sport. You just have to have 3 classes: biological male, biological female, and open. And compete in whichever one class you want to. So if you're a trans woman, you can still compete as a man. Because you're biologically male. It's like in football, I suppose, where somebody's obviously English and was born in England only, but they've got a grandparent that was Welsh that can play for the Welsh side, stretching it a bit. Do you know what I mean? It's like that Zola Budd. Somebody will remember Zola Budd. She's South African, but for some reason, some technicality, she was British. She wasn't. We just thought, oh, we could get a gold medal here, so we'll sign her up. People can be whatever they want when it's convenient, I suppose. Anyway, I'm digressing again. I was talking about the Ukraine and the sacrifice the Ukrainian people are making for freedom.
Very chilled there, my friend.
I am feeling very chilled. I'm having a coffee and a cigar and talking to myself. It was Gav wandering past, probably wondering who I was talking to. Myself. I'm talking to myself. Yes, you see, if there's something wrong with you, if you're a bit touched in the head like myself, these video cameras are brilliant because I can just talk to myself now and tell people I'm making a video. You talk to yourself. Ooh, I'm making a video. Essentially, I'm talking to myself, going through my own thoughts, trying to make sense of things. Sometimes it's easier if you verbalise it, speak out loud, because that way sometimes you can hear yourself talking shite, especially when you watch it back. But it's a nice day here today. Karen's gone into Stockton today with Charlotte. They're going to have a walk into Stockton with the dogs. There's a little cafe in Stockton that allows you to sit there. It's called Wags. You're allowed to take your dogs in, and they do dog treats while you're having a cup of tea and a cake. And they seem to enjoy going there on a Saturday. I wouldn't want to go there, simply because Dexter can be a dick with other dogs. He can be lovely one minute and total maniac the next. All teeth and snarling for no reason. He's one of these people you see in the pub, he's, convinced someone stared at them in a funny way and the next thing they're kicking off. Well, that's Dexter. Someone's looked at him in a funny way. Aye, Karen and I went out the other night. On Thursday, I took the night off work and took her out for her birthday. Went to see Rich Hall. So if you're looking at Rich Hall's comedian, he's American from Montana. He has a ranch out there. Well, I say a ranch, I don't know if it is an actual ranch or it's just a plot of land in the middle of Montana somewhere, who knows. It's supposed to be nice in Montana. America's a funny country when you look at it. Yeah, you're supposed to be, they really like the freedom, but freedom in America is basically freedom to starve, freedom to suffer, freedom not to get any medical health care. It's a freedom I could do without, to be perfectly honest. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of things Americans do that I like, but I can't understand their total, well, it's not total, what is it? They don't seem to want to pay taxes, even when those taxes are being put to good things like socialised healthcare, socialised medicine rather. They see it as some sort of evil. If being able to go to the doctor when you're ill and not have to worry about a bill is evil, I'm quite happy with this evil. I suppose because we've been brought up with it, my generation and post-war generations. The health service was a great thing. Health, medical treatment at the point of need, free. I mean, how are you going to get the best medical care money can buy? The answer to that is difficult. Both yes and no. Yes, but you might have to wait for it. Waiting for it might mean that the treatment's not going to work in some cases. But you've got to look at the overall good. Life expectancy's better here than it is for somebody like myself that's on a low wage. In America, could we afford healthcare? Who knows? Possibly not. Possibly basic stuff for emergencies. It's a bit like the insurance we have for the dogs. Do we use it for small things? No, it's there in case we have some big medical bills. Like the dog runs out and gets itself run over and needs a surgery. Yeah, I suppose getting a serious illness in America, unless you're wealthy, is a death sentence. You have to look at how much they pay for things, prescriptions and medication. Frightening. But you're free to make your own way in the world, and if you can make a success and become wealthy, you get to keep it all, or most of it. Yeah. It's like they have to work out their own taxes every year as though they were self-employed. Even when they're working for a big company, they have to sort their own taxes out. Bollocks to that. Pay as you earn. Yeah. Big fan of pay as you earn and national insurance. It makes life a lot easier. You go to work and you get paid at the end of the month and that's yours. Your taxes are already gone. Yeah, we pay more tax, but do we really? Do we really pay more tax? Initially, I'd say yes, but then when you factor in all the things we get for our taxes that they don't, once you start paying for them, I bet you're the worse off. I bet you some of them pay more in medical insurance than we pay in tax. But I don't know, I'm just surmising. To be honest, I'm not that interested. I'm only really interested in what's happening here. And what's happening here with politics at the moment is both the main political parties are really just arguing about whether or not they had a beer and whether or not that beer during COVID could be called a party. And to be honest, I don't care. Yeah, if they say, oh, but he's lied to Parliament. Has he lied? If you look back at what he said, he just says, I don't believe. I didn't think this. I didn't realise. And he didn't say, I don't think he ever said, I was not at a party. I didn't think that it was a party. Anyway, he's got fined. And the reason I'm not really fucking bothered is because what's the alternative to the Tory party at the moment? The Labour Party? Oh, bollocks to that. And there's Keir Starmer, could be proved to be a bit of a fucking hypocrite there. Banging on, going on about all the people that couldn't go to relatives' funerals or visit them in hospital during COVID while Boris was at the fucking party. No, it turns out he might have been having a little fucking shindig himself. Oh, it wasn't a party, it was just a beer and a pizza. Well, Boris had a wine and fucking cheese and nibbles. What's the difference? I think I said at the time, I'm not going to get fired up about some people that work together having a beer or some wine and some food after a shift. They're already working together. They've probably been breaching COVID all bloody day, just doing the job. And let's face it, they were trying to run a country. You know, it's not a case of they were just working in a car showroom selling cars. They were trying to run the fucking country during a pandemic. Now, I understand that the NHS, you had hospital staff wearing that PPE all day, every day, and suffering. Granted, yes, there were, but they were working with people that had COVID, and at the time we didn't know how bad it was going to be. So you're dealing with the unknown, so you have to be especially safe, I suppose. But we've, for the most part, got through it. And to be fair, I don't know anyone that had a serious case of COVID. Some people were off work because they said they had COVID. They tested positive, but apart from a bit of a sniffle, that's all he had. And I know some people died. I'm not saying they didn't. But people die of the flu every year. And it's sad and it's unfortunate, but it happens. And they die of many other things every year. And yes, it was right to take precautions and get vaccinated. There's another thing, all these people that refuse to be vaccinated, well, that's up to them, it's a personal choice. Now, if the vaccine had been proven to stop the transmission of COVID, I'd have been fuming at anyone that refused to have it. To me, it wouldn't have been a choice. It would have been a case of have this vaccine and you're not going to catch it and you're not going to pass it on if you do catch it. Yeah, then you need to have it. But it didn't, it was a personal thing. It reduces the chance of you not so much catching it, but becoming seriously ill if you catch it. So the only person that really benefits from you having it, apart from the state on a wider level, but it's you personally, you benefit from having the vaccine. So if you don't want it, that's up to you, bollocks to you. Don't cry later on when there isn't an intensive care bed because somebody else is in it. Yeah. I suppose life's just not fair. It can be good or it can be shit. And you never know, and it goes through, as you go through life, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's shit. I suppose most of us hope for the fact that it's not too shit. It's nice when it's good, but I think I'm erring on this. As long as it's not too shit, we'll get through it. Watching this woman on the TV as well, banging on about how with everything's gone up in price. Everything costs more, and wages haven't gone up for years and years and years. Not properly anyway. As I say, if you work for local government or some form of government, at the lower end, you've been hit with what? Generally 1% pay rises. A couple of years ago where I worked, now I work for the government in a roundabout sort of way, they had to give us an uplift in our salary before we had our 1% rise, otherwise we would have been behind the minimum wage or the living wage, whatever. It's one the government said everyone should be paying. Any decent employer would be paying the living wage, but we were going to fall under it, so they had to give us get special permission off the Treasury to give us an uplift in our salary before we had our 1% rise, because otherwise we would have been below the living wage. So every time they put benefits up, yeah, benefits have been going up higher than our wages have been going up. So when some people say they can't afford to take a job, I can believe that. Especially if you've got 3 or 4 kids. You know, because it's not just the benefits you get, cash in hand type benefits, as opposed to wages. It's all the additional things like free prescriptions, not just for your kids but for yourself. Because I have to pay for my prescriptions. Well, there's another thing. For years, or for a long time, there was some months I didn't get my meds because I really didn't have the spare cash to get it. And then somebody told me about the fact that you could actually get a prepayment. It's £100 and something a year. You know, when you're paying £8 something or nearly £9 per item, and there's 6 items in each of your prescriptions every month, you know. Some months I didn't have that money, so it was like, fuck it, I'll go without. I'll buy a box of... I'll go without me meds for me heart and me blood pressure, and I'll just buy a box of fucking aspirin. I'll take a couple of aspirin every day. That'll help. But no, then somebody says, oh, get a prepayment. Why the fuck wasn't somebody telling you that in the first place? Why do they hide that? Well, I'll tell you why they hide it. Because if most people that are on a number of items on a regular basis found out about prepayment prescriptions, it costs the health service quite a bit of money. Yeah, see, it's like universal credit. In theory, I quite like the idea that you just make one claim and they'd sort everything out. Oh, it doesn't fucking work that way because it's designed to fuck you about. And the transition from whatever benefits you're on to universal credit, they stop your benefits while they work it out. That is fucking cruel and immoral, that, in my view. You should stay on your existing benefits until they sort it out. And then transfer over so there isn't a break in money. That's no wonder people are starving. If they're going 5 weeks with not a penny, that's just fucking cruel, that. And these people that keep sanctioning benefit claimants for whatever reason, and then people appeal it and get the benefits back because whoever sanctioned them hadn't followed the rules. Those people that are sanctioning should be on a 3 strike and you're out rule. You get 3 claims against you go against you because you haven't followed the rules properly. You're not fit to do your job. You need sacking. You need to claim. Yeah, you go fill a claim form in because you ain't got a job now, you bastards. And job centres, they're a fucking nightmare at the moment. Claiming any benefit's a nightmare. Should be able to streamline that. You know, you can't even just go down the job centre and walk in and make an appointment. No, you've got to do it online or via the phone. Make an appointment, then you can go down. See, you'd have been better off the old system where you walk into the office and take a ticket off the wall and sit down and wait. And then once your number's called, you go and speak to somebody. Back in 1989, I lost my job at Nissan because I'd had an accident there and I couldn't do the job anymore. So they terminated my employment on capability grounds. I wasn't capable of doing the job anymore. And I was too dumb to be retrained in anything. So they sacked me. Fair enough. It's long before these no win, no fee claims. I went and saw a solicitor and he said, oh, it can go either way. And if you lose, you not only have my fees to pay, but you'll have theirs. I went, oh, fucking grand. I've got no money, so bollocks to that then. Just get on with life. But I went down the job centre, took the ticket, sat down, and had this amazing stroke of luck. The young girl that spoke to me listened to my situation. I told her what had gone on, that I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing, what I could claim for. And she says, well, give me 5 minutes, I'll go out the back and you just wait there. And so she disappeared, and she was gone about 10 minutes, and she came back with a stack of forms, and she split them into 2 piles. She says, these you're definitely entitled to apply for. These I think you can apply for them, but I'm not sure if you're going to get them. But we'll fill them all in. And she sat there with me for the next 40 minutes, and we went through all those forms and got them filled in, signed, and she took them away. Fucking brilliant. She found an industrial injury benefit that I would never have claimed for because I wouldn't have known about it. Because I'd lost my job through an industrial injury, I could claim this benefit. And I had to go and have a medical, and back then you had to go and have a medical every 6 months to see if it was you were still in similar health. Which was a pain having to go every 6 months, but you go along and see some general practitioner who asks you the same questions and makes you do the same tests and then says, oh, fair enough. You are who you are. You've got what you've got. But that industrial injuries benefit was awarded for life. And it has tided us over. It's made a big difference at times. You know, especially when I was working part-time and there wasn't much money coming in. But that's down to one young woman that cared about what she was doing and knew her job. And the fact that you could actually sit face to face. But these days you don't. You don't know what benefits you're entitled to. And it was supposed to be universal credit, put one claim in and it was all sorted out. But I don't think it works that way. You know, you need some decent software, good computer system where you put all your information in and it will tell you exactly what you're entitled to, where work it all out and bang, done. Take people out of it. Because most of these people you get in these benefit offices aren't like that young lady that dealt with me. They think they're better than everybody else. You know, they've got a job, so why can't everybody else have one? And there's plenty of work about at the moment. My son-in-law, Craig, he's applying for new jobs because he's been told that his job is possibly not as safe, as secure as he thinks it might. It's not as secure as he thought. His company might be reducing staffing levels. But he's got an interview for something else. Jack decided he wanted to be out of McDonald's where he was working, so he applied for a few jobs. He got offered an interview for an apprenticeship where I work, but he turned it down because he'd just accepted a job, a warehouse job, which he's been doing. This is his first week. I think it's been an eye-opener for him, that some people have to actually work hard for the money. But yeah, he applied for it, got an interview, got the job. He's also got a place on a training scheme for the next couple of weeks, some IT qualification, but he wants to get an IT-based job, possibly in cyber security. Well, that'll be a growing market. But we'll have to wait and see what happens, see if he sticks it. I think he might, because I think this hard manual labour's not him. Might be the spur he needs to actually motivate him into doing something with his life. And again, I suppose, when you think your life is shit, just watch the news and see what's going on in the Ukraine. Puts it all into context. Life is fucking good compared to some people. Yeah. Still think the government need to do more to aid the Ukraine. But I don't know what we can do without going to war ourselves. Well, it might come to that. You never know. You know, they're shelling or sending rockets over close to the Polish border. I suppose it only takes a couple of them to go the wrong side of the border and have some mass civilian deaths in Poland, and it could all go Pete Tong straight away. You know, we've got more troops, NATO troops now along the Russian border than we've had in years, and simply because of Putin and his madness. It has to be madness. He has to have lost the plot. He's threatening the world with nuclear weapons as well. Must be a fucking madman. Why? I think some of his generals just fucking done him in. I'll never know. I mean, if Boris was going mental like that, I'd hope that somebody would just fucking put him in a straitjacket and drag him out in number 10. Any Prime Minister that goes that weird should be put in a straitjacket and dragged out in number 10. By his fucking ankles if he had to be. We need a new political party in this country. One that wants to change things. But they need to get a majority because they need to change Parliament. First thing they do, they need to change how Parliament works. MPs shouldn't be allowed a pay rise greater than local government pay rise. So when they say local government employees are only allowed 1%, guess what? MPs are only down allowed 1%. And they shouldn't get fucking expenses either. Travel, they should be given a little fucking plastic card which they can present at any public transport, any train, bus, taxi. There you go. And that company can apply to get the money back. Standard, not first class, fucking standard like the rest of us. Because let's face it, if they were having to travel the same way that the rest of us have to travel, maybe they'd put more money into the fucking infrastructure. And why should they be able to claim for meals? The rest of us can't. You go to work, you take your bait with you. Or you nip out at lunchtime and buy something. You don't get to put the fucking receipts in. No, and I've got to have a second house. No, you don't. Build accommodation for MPs. Something on the lines of a fucking Premier Inn or a travel lodge. Something like that. Basic. There's a room with a bathroom, a little office, telephone, internet. Give them all of those things that they need. Oh, and they need to employ people, so they need money for that. No, you fucking don't. Give them an assistant. There you go. Let's face it, if they're not picking their assistants, it might keep them a little bit honest. Because the assistant might grass them up. Yeah, so we'd need a new political party just to change things. And I personally wouldn't spend a fortune on rebuilding the Houses of Parliament. They've had the day. I'd build a new Parliament. An independent little town somewhere. Somewhere more central in the UK. Get it out of London. All the facilities they need there. And then don't let fucking loads of people have offices in there. If you're not fucking part of the government, you shouldn't be there. Keep it nice and secure that way, can't you? Make sure all the phones are tapped. Everything they say over the phone, and then their emails and internet, it's all fucking monitored. Might have to build a new wing in GCHQ just for that, but who cares? It's either that or lock them up in prison as soon as they're elected. Terry Pratchett said that in one of his novels. I think it was 4X. Yeah. Main character had to go and see the Prime Minister and said, we'll take you to the prison. It turned out they locked up all their MPs as soon as they were elected. That way you know what they're up to. I do miss Terry Pratchett novels. Yes, I know I can reread them, and I do reread them, but I hung on to the last book I hadn't read. For ages I wouldn't read it because he'd already died. I just couldn't bring myself to read it because it was the last one, and once I'd read it there wouldn't be any new ones. Silly of me really, but there you go. Aye, made you look at the world slightly differently, didn't Terry? Sir Terry Pratchett. If you haven't read any Terry Pratchett, I'd read them. His Discworld novels. I like the Guards novels myself, with Sam Vimes, Corporal Nobbs, Sergeant Colon, Captain Carrot. Tell you what I might reread now. Red Storm Rising. Tom Clancy book. Read it years ago. I was hooked on that. Couldn't put it down. Brilliant book. Now there's a book if you haven't read, with what's going on with Russia at the moment. Red Storm Rising. I won't tell you what it's about, in case you want to read it. Go down the library and get a copy of Red Storm Rising. Hey, libraries. Most of them don't have books anymore, do they? Thornaby used to have a decent library. Used to have one in the Thornaby Town Centre. It was a nice library, nice big library. Had a reference section and everything. It's all gone now. I went in there, there's hardly any books in the place. It's more of just a council office now, where people go to pay the bills. We used to have a little library on Westbury Street. That was a cracking little library. That really did a lot for youngsters to get kids into reading. The staff in there were brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Charlotte used to live in that place, but they closed it. Didn't need it, you see, because there was a library at the Pavilion, which they then reduced in size, and there was another library at Ingleby Barrack. But the kids where I live in Thornby aren't going up to Ingleby Barrack to the library. That's it. Let's close the library in an area that really needs a fucking library. And keep the library in a nice, wealthy area where the kids can afford fucking books anywhere. And the parents would encourage them to read. Yeah. It's always the poorer ends of a society that get shafted first. The only time you really hear from politicians out round our way is come election time. The rest of the time they don't give a fuck about you. They don't give a fuck about your area. Years ago I used to share a house with my brother and some of my mates in an area of Stockton called Hartburn. Quite an affluent area. And funnily enough you would see council vehicles fixing things like cracked paving stones and things like that. Whoa, wasn't long before they were fixed. There's a street light out. Whoa, that'll be fixed soon as well. Where I am now, no. You fucking hardly ever see the council fixing fuck all. It's a poor area. No one gives a shit about the poor. Need to keep them poor, I suppose. More concerned about the woke agenda being seen to be friendly towards the LGBT whatever it is community. Keeps getting longer with all those fucking letters. If anything, all of that proactive bollocks just puts people's backs up. We had an LGBT chat at work one night. We went to a team meeting and there was this fella there that I'd never seen before. Apparently the company has an LGBT group. Yeah, they get to swan about and do LGBT stuff while they're getting paid. Fucking bollocks. Really couldn't give a fuck about people's sexuality. It's work. Sexuality's got fuck all to do with work. Oh, gay men need more mental support because they this, that and the other. And I'm thinking, don't be telling me that gay men are fucking mentally fucking feeble. They're not. They have no more stressy life than anybody else. I think statistically men kill themselves more than anyone. It'd be interesting to see, is it gay men that kill themselves more or is it straight men? I don't know what the numbers are there. And I can't say I'm really that bothered now that I'm going to take the trouble to find out. And it's not because I don't care. I mean, I've had family members that have committed suicide. One was straight, and one was gay. I suppose out the two, the one I miss the most is the one that was gay, my cousin. Oh, why he did that, I'll never know. Hit his sister really hard, and I think well, I don't really know what hit her the worst, but I'm sure not knowing why he did it, or the fact that he felt he couldn't talk to her before he did it, and, you know. Anyway, I'm getting maudlin now, so we're going to wind up. But respect to our Ukrainian friends. If there is a God, I hope he's with you.